As part of the Holland Park Transformation Project, we are conducting a series of interviews of people who attended the West Ward School that used to stand in the center of that space. So why don't we begin by having each one of you state your name and when you attended West Ward, as best you remember.
My name is Beverly ETCHISON Robinson. I attended West Ward School in the late 1940s, meaning around 1947, up until the 4th grade when I went to Austin School.
My name is Ollie Etchison Atkins. They call me Joe. Most people know me as Joe. I'm Beverly's younger sister. And I came in a year behind her.
And how many years?
Oh, I didn't go that long. I only went I can only remember like a day. But I know I went longer than that. But we're talking a long time ago when I was in school.
Okay. You had other siblings. Did they attend West Ward or other schools?
My late brother Charles attended West Ward also.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the three of us, Charles, Beverly, and Joe.
Okay. When you went to school, and if I remember correctly, you lived fairly close to the school.
Actually, we lived right across the street from the school later. But at the beginning, when we first started, we lived in the Malibu Trailer Park. And the three of us had to walk to school together. And because of the train tracks, we had to cross over. So that was for protection. But I don't recall us having to go back home for lunch. I think we did it right there at the school, sack lunch. But when we moved across the street, at that time, it was a little garage that they converted into an apartment building. And we lived there until we went to
Project.
Northview Homes. Mm-hmm. And that would have been in 1953. No, John was 51.
Okay.
1951.
That's when I came back. I was gone.
Okay.
My mom, can I say this now? Or
Yes. Anything you
my
want?
experience there?
Yes.
Well, Miss Biggs was my teacher. And that's why I don't have a lot of memory because I wasn't there that long. And I remember I was either chewing some gum, which probably was candy, back then it was so exciting just to have a piece of candy. And I was chewing it, I guess, eating it. And Miss Biggs hit me on my arm and put me under her desk. And I can still feel that on my arm today. So after I went home and I told my mom about it, and my next memory is I was sent down south to live with my grandparents and my aunt.
Okay. Well, speaking of discipline, are you either one of you aware of any other examples of the discipline that was used in the school?
I don't recall being disciplined myself because I was that model student.
Okay.
No, she would.
I don't recall really being disciplined, but I do know that Miss Biggs would discipline the children. They had this paddle, but
I think it was a ruler.
or whatever. It was something that would hit the kids and they make them sit on their desk. But I always remember I putting more boys on her desk than did girls.
I only went one time.
Okay. Let's talk about a routine day. And I know for you that was short. But can you talk me through what it was like on a typical day in school? Like, what did you do throughout the course of the day?
Oh, we're going back a couple of years, and I can vaguely remember when we would get to school, we had to stay outside until, the correct time to go in. We took our places. We had our books. And we studied really hard. We was in reading. I remember being taught to do your best in everything, that we could not just play around. Typically, we would get a little snack during the school day. But I was a safety patrol. So at the beginning, I was not in the school, I would be outside. We would come in and get our badge, belt, whatever you want to call it, and we would go take our post, and we would stay out until all the kids got in school. We did not have a person like they have today, a safety guard, helping the kids cross the street. We had to do it ourselves. And we would post one on all four corners.
Right.
Because the school, at that time, Washington Street went straight through. And we would post a safety on each corner. And I always remember my corner being at Albion and Cass, right across the street from where I lived. Our parents didn't go along with playing around in school, so you were disciplined at school, you got disciplined at home too, and you just didn't do it. I enjoyed the nice recesses we had, playing with other kids. And I remember in one recess and walking around the swing set, and I want to believe that's the same frame swing set up there. Anyway, I walked in front of the swings as they were swinging, and I remember Gloria Bell in that swing hit me right there, knocked my tooth out, and I wanted to fight. I always remember that, and it wasn't her fault, it was really mine, because I walked in front of her.
Yeah.
So they took me back into school because they I was bleeding like stuck pig, and put cold packs on it. And I remember that, but a typical day in school, we studied. We did not have all that private time. I was in a split class. Mrs. Biggs was my teacher. Mrs. Ferguson was in there too, because I don't recall ever having Mrs. Stewart, but I knew she was there. My teachers consisted of Mrs. Biggs and Mrs. Ferguson. And they took it further. Mrs. Ferguson took it further than school. She would take you home and teach you all about mannerism and how to treat one another and how to be the best that you can for yourself.
Be young ladies. She taught us that.
Yeah, so you have some additional memories about that?
Well, she did. She lived around the corner from us, which was on Albion Street, from the school. And we would go over there, and she was so nice and friendly, and she would show us stuff. And her husband, Mr. Ferguson, was there and showing us his train set, and he had the greatest train set with everything, and that was just amazing to see that.
This is an aside, but do you remember anything else about that house?
Mrs. Ferguson's house? Oh, gosh. It was full.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a two-story house.
Right.
I want to say it was 119. I want to think it was 119 South Albion Street. It was brown stucco, and when we would walk in, everything was always in place. And she would take us into the little dining room area, and we would sit down. She did not take a lot of kids at one time, a couple, 2 or 3. And we would have little tea parties. And then she would teach us how to drink tea. And then she taught us how to set tables. She taught us, like Joe said, being little ladies. But Mr. Clifton was always there too, because they never had children and they loved other children.
Yeah.
And she took it upon herself to take us to church. My mom had, 4 then? And so she would help, like, comb my hair, because we had a lot of it.
Yeah.
And she would take us to church, which was Leggett's Chapel.
Right.
So it was Sunday school and church, and that helped my mom to be able to have a load off of her and come to church too.
Okay. So In addition to Mrs. Ferguson, did you have any contact with any other teachers outside of school?
No, because I was afraid of Mrs. Biggs behind that.
Yeah.
And no one else.
Okay.
Not in that capacity. I knew
Not
Ms.
that-
Biggs.
Right.
And they did not take up the time with us like that. And I'm not even sure if Mrs. Stewart lived in Albion. I'm not sure because I knew Miss Holmes did, and Miss Holmes lived right across the street from the school.
I think she
also.
roomed with Miss Holmes.
Did she?
I think so.
Well, I know she lived across the street. Miss Holmes did, that big old house. Still stands.
Yeah.
Miss Biggs was just a disciplinary person. She wasn't like Mrs. Ferguson, even though Mrs. Ferguson was disciplined also. But Mrs. Biggs was just stern.
I feel personally that they were all very strict on us because we were in a segregated school. And we really had to really toe the mark tougher. We had to be tougher. And they always told me, you can be what you want it to be. You just have to apply yourself. Disciplinary, all four of those teachers really stuck to their gun. You didn't have the misbehavior in your classrooms that you have today. You did not talk back to your teachers. You did what you were told to do, and you got your assignments done. I don't remember taking homework home from school there.
No.
I don't remember that.
In addition to your teachers, did you have any contact or did you know the other staff, like the janitor?
I don't remember who the janitor was.
Okay. What about substitute teachers?
I don't really remember who the substitute teachers were.
Okay.
No, either.
Do you remember having teachers come from the high school who would do, like, once a month or something, they would teach music or art?
I don't recall that.
Okay. What activities, special activities, connected maybe with a holiday, like Halloween or Thanksgiving or some other special occasion, do you recall any of those?
I remember in those times, we were told about Thanksgiving, how the Pilgrims started Thanksgiving, and we kind of did a little dinner thing, a little something like that at the school. I vaguely remember that. Christmas was always big, but you know, I remember there, when we were going to Westford, we were poor, but I never realized I was poor. But if they had if we needed something, those teachers there helped get that material for you, or clothing or whatever you needed, they would watch out for you.
Okay.
I remember that part. But holidays, we celebrated them. I remember making Valentine cards.
Okay.
I really remember the playground.
Well, speaking of the playground, were you aware as a child of odors from the gale or even from the Malibu or debris in the air when you were playing? Did you?
No, because you know, once you're used to something, it doesn't really bother you. And I didn't really notice it smelling like that until I got older.
I didn't smell it. I think the only thing I noticed was the gale looked like grit would fall, but the odors and the Malibu never. Because we lived in
In the trailer.
the trailer park, which was right there.
Between the Malibu and Austin
Right,
Avenue?
Yes.
where that fence is, and it's 2 pine trees there. That's where our house was. And that's how we recognize it today. We see the trees there,
Yeah.
and that's where we lived. And
Mrs. Walker still on one side.
yeah, Alan Walker and Bob Walker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
One thing about that too, I remember not as much the smell, but like she said, I remember the grit.
okay.
When the wind blew, you got the grit like that.
Yeah, it's
That's
from the
the only-
gale or from the Malibu?
From the
I would say
gale.
that was the gale because we were further away from the Malibu.
Okay. All right, we talked about safety patrol. Were there any other, and you talked about going to Mrs. Ferguson's in small groups, were there any other clubs or groups connected with the school?
I don't recall us being in any clubs or groups right now.
Did we have Bluebirds?
Oh, we did Bluebirds, but I think we started Bluebirds at Austin.
Do you remember participating in any kind of activities with students from other schools?
I'm trying to think, Bobby, that there was some kind of parades or something that we would be involved in.
Memorial Day?
It seemed, yeah, it could have been that, because we were involved in that kind of thing too.
Okay. Do you remember in 5th grade, there was a 5th grade camp that kids went to?
I was at Austin School in 5th grade.
Okay.
But my parents never allowed us to go to those camps, and they did have camps and things. I don't remember me being able to go.
Okay.
My parents were very protective, overprotective with us. And we could not even go to Joe Black's house and stay all night. Anybody, we had to stay home, but you could come and stay with us.
Mm-hmm.
But they would not allow that. So we wouldn't be able to go on camp and things like that.
What about college connection? Do you recall any college students coming to work in the school with you, or events where they would take groups of students like to a fraternity or sorority house?
I remember that, but I don't think, I wasn't in West Ward. That was after we got older in Austin School.
I believe that I had a big sister.
Big sister, yeah.
I believe I had a big sister in West Ward.
Mm-hmm.
And it followed through when I went over to Austin. And I remember them taking us. I remember my first play going to Albion College with the big sister. And I was so looking around to see where everybody was coming from. That was the very first play, and I was very interested in plays after that.
Yeah.
But that's been, I can't tell you what the play was.
Okay.
But I do remember the college student coming up
To the school.
to the
Yeah.
school. But I remember one thing, our books weren't new. I remember them books being raggedy.
Okay. Let's talk about the conditions, both of the building and the supplies. As a child, were you aware of like the condition of the building not being what it should be, things needing repair?
No, I don't remember the condition of the building. Always the building to me, I knew it was always old. And I remember when we would go in the classroom up those steps, I remember the trees that sat there, and we would go to the left. Our classrooms was to the left, which faced Albion Street. And I remember the 5th and 6th grade classes were on the opposite side. And it was just like the building was a great big square building. It was like a wall right down the middle.
Yeah.
And there was a door in the back that you could go through to the other side. And that's what I vaguely remember. And first, kindergartners and first graders was in the front.
Right.
And the 4th grade and 3rd and 4th grade was in the back. And that's what Mrs. Stewart was teaching.
Right.
And remember, there was no board, anything separated. So everything was going on at the same time. It was like one great big room to me.
Yeah, I know there were 2 classes per room,
Mhm.
except 6th grade.
But see, but they must have had it divided because
Yeah,
that was 3rd and 4th grade
right.
on that left side. So 5th and 6th had to be on the other side.
Mm.
Those were the big kids.
Yeah.
We were really big kids at that time. We didn't have these little shrimps that got going now talking about this senior.
You talked about the books, and so your impression of books is that they were
Afraid.
Well
Great.
used.
well used.
Because as I go on through life and I worked in the library, I realized then how the condition of the books that we had at Westward, how bad they were. But I know a lot of Tom and Dick and Jane. I
Yeah.
don't think they talk about that anymore.
In general, would you characterize the building itself as gloomy or cheerful, dark, bright?
I thought it was cheerful, the part that I remember. And I was excited to walk in the hall because they had a board on the wall with the hooks where you hung your coat.
Okay.
And I was just excited just to hang my coat on that wall, on that hook.
Yeah.
That was a foyer that we walked into,
Mhm.
we hung our coats
Yeah,
outside.
had your boots.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I do remember our rooms being colorful.
Mhm.
Our teachers, you know, everything had to be taught there. I don't remember teachers coming in for art or music. I don't remember that. Because I remember Miss Ferguson had this little tuning wheel. I think you know what I'm talking about. That little flat thing that she would give us our
yeah.
key.
Mhm.
And she would give us our key and we would sing.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think she took that to church too.
Did you ever have an occasion to go into the basement or see into the basement of that building?
No, I didn't.
I don't recall that, but I probably did.
Okay.
Because being curious children, I probably did, but I don't remember. You know, let me think on that there, because we might have been down there where the safety patrols met first together and then went out. Not being disturbed with the other kids, because we could be there and talk about what we had to do.
That's where you had your meeting.
Yes, I want to think that's what we had needed. It's vaguely.
Okay.
But I do remember in being safety patrol, we went to safety patrol camp.
Oh, where, no.
I can't think
So
where it
let's
was
talk
at, but I
about that.
remember doing a safety patrol camp. Stuff is coming back, and it might have been just up to the college, I don't remember where it was now. But they would teach us about safety patrol, and then we had the safety patrol of the week, or the safety patrol of the year, whatever.
Okay, now, at that meeting, there were students from all the elementary schools
Mhm.
present?
Yes,
Okay.
was.
All right. Good.
And we got our snacks first, because we had to be outside, we were able to get that hot chocolate.
I remember that. I was in safety patrol too. Okay. Let's talk about the eventual closing of the school. Now, granted, you had moved to another school,
Not until it closed.
not until it closed. All right. At the beginning of that school year, that the year that it closed, did you attend for a short time and then be transferred? Or did
Yes.
your parents keep you home?
I think my dad did never keep us home. We didn't stay along the rain, snow, sleet, or hell, okay? We were in school because it was very important to us to get an education.
Mhm.
Because I don't believe that my parents finished high school and they wanted their
They
children to get an education and to go on to college. Yes, we were at Westford when it closed.
Okay. Do you remember hearing your parents talk at all about what was being discussed among the adults about Westward and why they wanted it closed or anything like that?
Are you joking?
Well,
My parents said you were to be seen and not heard. When they talk business and stuff like that, you weren't in the room.
Mhm.
yeah, we had to go. Like, nobody's talking to you, go outside and play.
Okay.
And we enjoyed going outside and play,
Come on,
because that was fun.
Because if you stayed in the house and listened to them, you were scrubbing floors, washing walls, washing clothes, ironing, cleaning the house. No, you got a chance to go out, you go.
Yeah.
Rain, snow, sleet, or hail.
Okay.
'Cause speaking of that, Bobby, I like to say, I don't understand today. When we were coming up, we had a lot of snow in the last couple of years, but it's nothing compared to the snow that we had back then, to me. And snow day, cold day,
We banged
you
the
put on
school.
some more clothes on.
Yeah.
If we going, my dad in a car, and he didn't drive us to school, we walked.
Unless it's raining.
Right. Well, you know,
We walked in the rain.
today, I think part of that is they're much more legalistic now. So if anything happens, everybody wants to sue. So they guard against that. And we did walk. I don't even know what, I was 34 years old before I owned a car. I mean, I just didn't know what that was, and I had no need for it. And at the time, there weren't that many cars.
No,
Exactly.
they weren't.
And so I think that is a factor that they didn't have to consider school buses, cars, and all that. Everybody walked.
Right.
At least everybody that I knew walked.
And we were all in walking distance, we might say.
Yeah.
Coming from that area wasn't that far. And even after we moved to Austin School, we had also moved to the projects, which we were the second family in the projects at that time. And then it just opened up, and we walked from there to Austin School. The longest was going up to the junior high.
Right. Now, where in the projects did you live?
404 apartment 17,
Okay, so you were.
and the first end closer to Eaton Street.
Okay.
Those are the first apartments that opened up. The very first family there was Doug Earl, Milo Earl's family.
Danny Earl.
Daniel on the dairy Good. And we were the second family. We moved in maybe about a week or two after. The rest of the apartments were not finished at that time.
Yeah, because I moved on the west end, the last building all the way down.
720.
In 1952.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the first occupants of our
On that
unit.
end, so we were the second.
So we have some similar
Mm-hmm.
moves.
We was,
And our father mapped in the project when we was there first, I'm going to say this, he mapped us a route to walk to school, which we would go up to Eaton Street and go all the way down Eaton to Austin, to, what's that little short street where Austin is on the side?
Queen Street.
Oh, no, where the playground, Pine
Pine
Street.
Street.
Fine. Oh, yeah.
That's the way we had to walk. So one day, I'm gonna make a shortcut. And I go down, what's that, 2nd Street, going Carson and coming up, and he caught me. And he made me go all the way back and walk up
The way you
Rockwell
supposed
to Eaton Street all the way, and I did it.
Yeah, I can believe it.
When they say do something, you did it.
Yeah.
And you didn't look back or talk back.
No, he didn't hit me. He had to hit me. He already had established, you're gonna mind. And we do. We did.
Yeah. When you had to move from Westport to Austin, what was your feeling about that?
I was nervous about it. I was scared because this was going to be my first contact with the integrated school, being with integrated students, because they were all minority students here. I didn't interact, and that was during that time was a lot of Jim Crow, but we didn't know anything about all of that. To tell you the truth, growing up, my parents never taught racism. As a matter of fact, I remember once, I don't know if Joe remember this, my mother offered all of us $1 if we could tell her what a race riot was. We thought somebody was just running down the street. We had no idea what a race riot was. And when we went to Austin School, we blended in, and I think Mrs. Miller was my teacher. And I think Bill Krieger sat behind me. And he used to pull my hair. And that teacher never said anything about him pulling my pigtails. But I wasn't scared, I was nervous.
Yeah.
Because I always competed. I was very competitive in school. I had to be my very best, still competitive. And my brother and I were, somehow, I caught up with him. I don't know what grade it was. But I knew we were in 5th grade together. And we had to be, I had to be, all my grades had to be higher than his. And that made him study hard.
Yeah.
Because he did not want his little sister being above him.
Yeah. So eventually you transitioned to the junior high and finished senior high. In looking back at that total school experience, having gone to Westport, do you think it in any way influenced how you performed later?
I think it did. Because it taught me how to really study hard. It taught me to want to be something with myself. And it really helped with Miss Ferguson going up there at the same time.
Yeah.
She was up there and she would pull me aside on those things. And I always remember her having a white leaded pencil. And she would be talking to you and she would have that leaded pencil going underneath her nails. And her nails was always white under there. You know, fanny nail polishes. And they were always so clean, and that's what I remember her. With little round glasses, 2 pigtails put up at the top. That was Miss Ferguson.
Yeah. And she, when Westport closed, she went to the high school. Was she in the library up there?
I thought she went to,
She didn't go to Westbrook, because I don't think
Where
she
did
was
she
there right
go?
away. I'm not sure what she might have went to Dalrymple at that
I
time.
thought she went to, Crow. I know Miss Biggs went over there.
I'm not sure where she
Okay.
went,
But
but I do know when she went up to the high school,
Miss Biggs
junior
was
high.
at Grove
Yeah.
School.
She was like something similar to a counselor, not necessarily a librarian,
okay,
because she would talk to the students, and she was trying to help the student with the transition.
okay, excellent.
That school was scary. It was so huge. But I enjoyed going to the high school because I'd get there early, because you couldn't be late. And you stand out there and you look at the big kids, and you like this, wow. But you know, and to be late going to school, I remember being tardy in the hallway, and they sent me home. I had to go home and take my dad that note. There wasn't no skipping school. And my dad got up out of bed, got in that car after he scolded me. And scolded me. Didn't whip me, but scolded me. And took me right back to school. I didn't even get to stay home an hour. And I had to hurry up and get home. We only had a lot of time to get to school. We had probably 30 minutes to walk from the Broadwell Street, all the way up to the senior high school, well, the junior high school. And we would be on time because you didn't have time to lollygag around. We didn't have hot lunches there. We had to get home.
You went home for lunch?
We were home for
Yeah.
lunch
Yeah.
because lunch, the bell rung at 11:50. And we'd be running out of there,
Yeah.
running home to lunch, and then get back up there before 1 o'clock. And you had to eat and get back.
Yeah.
But we had a plan. My mama and daddy didn't know it. Mr. Williams, Lorraine Gann, father worked at Union Steel, and his lunchtime was the same as ours. And I would run with Lorraine, get in that car with her dad, ride home, and run back down to her house, get in that car with her dad, and ride back to school.
Yeah, I can remember, and I had to go all the way down to Mallory Street.
Man, yeah, you have all that.
So, yeah, we ran both ways.
You
Yeah,
ran.
you
But
wrong.
you're right, we were on time.
There was no fat kids, was it?
Nope.
Not many.
Not many.
Big Tank was big.
Well, he was just big bone.
Those are my formal questions. Now, since there are two of you, are there any, and we have time. Let me ask you this. I was talking to my sister last week, and she was telling me a story, and I remembered it after she brought it up. When we were kids in West Ward, there was a story that was circulating to scare us, to keep us from trying to hang out up there in the evening. And the story was that there was this old lady with some pigs, and that if you got caught crossing West Ward, like around sundown or after, this woman would chase you. Did you guys ever hear any of those?
No, we didn't,
tales?
because remember, we lived right across the street from Westwood, and our parents didn't allow too much out of the yard.
Mhm. What about,
I went across the street and played on the playground.
oh yeah,
But I knew I was afraid to go across, but I don't remember why. But I know it was scary that you wasn't supposed to go across that school ground at a certain time. And I think it was, part I do remember.
yeah.
I remember that swing, I remember that merry-go-round.
Merry-go-round.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
we had lines and we had no turns on that merry-go-round. And, you know, we had a
Um,
few bullies too.
It was the one that swung your body,
like a
your whole
carousel.
body, you know, like a carousel. And it was chains and you held the bar.
And it was attached to the top.
To the top.
Like an umbrella, big
And
umbrella.
everybody would run around.
Yeah.
And then when you get it up to speed, you just start swinging.
Yeah.
The whole thing goes around your whole body, just going like this.
Right. And you also had the merry-go-round that was on the
Yeah,
ground.
man, that
You
would
could
do
run
that
and
too.
jump on, go around.
Yes.
What other toys were there, equipment to play on? I know you mentioned the swings.
They had a slideboard, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was,
The teeter
that was,
totter.
yeah, teeter-totter, yeah.
Mhm.
And that was probably the extent of our,
Well, you know, my youngest daughter, just told me the other day, she said, Because they remember going with my mom's,
Mhm.
playing on the merry-go-round that we played on,
Right.
that one.
Yeah.
And she said, well, Mama, they used to have, they had those first little rocking, the little 20
Yeah.
songs.
Oh,
And
yeah.
now they got them everywhere, but they were there first, I thought.
I don't remember.
Yeah, and they would go and play on those little rocking
That's
things.
after
That's
my
after-
time,
That's
for
after
sure.
mine too.
Do, when you go out the door towards Dalrymple Street,
Mhm.
and the swings would be on the left,
Mhm.
do you remember the trees?
Yes, the two trees. There was big
Yeah.
trees
Yeah.
that right by the sidewalk. I believe those trees are still there, aren't they?
I'm not sure.
No.
But they were maples,
No.
Mhm.
golden, yellow leaves and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, in the fall,
In
yeah.
the
we
fall.
had they taught us how to wax leaves.
Let's talk about that then.
I remember waxing leaves in the fall and at the school, pressing them,
Mhm.
and put them in the books and things.
Mhm.
I think that was Miss Ferguson's class that did that. We did the waxing. And we did little things at school to learn different things, how to do, we learned how to do our own games because we did a lot of duck goose in school. We did,
Merry-go-round the roses.
yeah, we did those
I
in
go
school.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody hide.
Yeah.
And they had bushes when you was
Yeah,
hiding
there
behind
were
those
bushes
bushes.
around, yeah.
Boys chase the girls, they go out and go sleep.
Yeah. Call it whatever.
Yeah, that was the game.
Yeah.
They get back to get to.
But I still say, to me, that was the good old days when we really, we grew up loving one another, not knowing about this racism and stuff. And when I went to Austin School, I didn't really experience
Mhm.
any
That's
racism.
good.
Even, that's me personally. And I was talking with one of my friends and Anna, and we were talking about how Friday nights we had sock hops at the junior
Yeah.
high school, and we could go if we went together and come back home together. And those were mixed, those were interracial.
Oh, yeah.
And we didn't, and we played, we danced, we had a good time together up there with the kids. I don't know how they got, where the split come in. I don't know, they don't wanna do nothing together.
Well, my kids didn't,
Experience it.
no, I mean, their whole experience was integrated. I mean, the schools here
Yeah.
were always integrated,
Mhm.
except for teachers.
Right.
And the interesting thing about Westward is that being converted to an all-black school came at the request of the black community
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted a place for black teachers
To
teach.
Oh.
And, ironically, it's also from the black community that the push to close it comes because
Right.
things changed over that 30-year
Right.
period.
Because we were not getting the updated material that we did.
Yeah.
Our books really were literally falling apart.
Yeah, I can remember in, I think, third grade, that my math book in particular, I mean, the first time I got it, it had this dingy yellow color, and when you
Mhm.
open it up and the timetables
Mhm.
were inside or whatever, it was just all smudged and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Remember those big fat pencils?
Yeah, yeah.
We had to use the big fat pencils,
Yeah.
and we had the paper we used. It looked like newspaper paper, but it was
Mm-hmm,
with the lines on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things that Miss Biggs was known for outside of discipline was penmanship.
Penmanship.
And we had those papers with, looks like the space between each
Mhm.
line was a
Yeah.
half inch or
Right,
more.
and you had to do your capitals and your lowercase, and they really nailed education into us.
Yeah.
It was very important to them that we got our education, and it was very important to them that they got their basic. We got our basic to the point that when my children started at Crow School, I wanted Miss Biggs to be their teacher, and she was still teaching first grade. And I requested my children to go through her classroom so that they would get their basics. I felt that if you got your basic, you
Yeah.
can do it. You wouldn't have those issues.
Good. Well, anything else? Any memories stirred up, Joe?
Well, like I said, went south, and I was still in a black school where I went, which was in the suburban area of Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was called Linwood Park.
Okay.
And it was still Atlanta, and that was a black school too, and the professor, is what they called him, would come into the classroom, and he would talk to the students to see if they knew their lesson, was saying stuff, and I was scared of him. I don't know, I guess big people just scared me. So, and when I came back to Michigan, that's when we were living in the project, and I went to Austin, and everybody was my friend. Yeah, so, I have them today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
And the only time I went to school in Atlanta would have been 1950 for 30 days. That was the only time. That's when my mom went down, or my dad had a little split thing, and she went down, and I know it was 1950 because that's when Jan was born, and she was born in Atlanta. Because out of the 7 children, only 4 was born in Georgia.
Okay.
And she's the baby girl.
Jan?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming. It was good. See, your memory's fine.
Well, okay. About Westward School.
Yeah.
I remember.
But I did
everything else.
enjoy playing on that playground because we also played softball.
Right.
And that was so much fun. The girls and the guys, the Washington children,
Yeah.
everybody was friends, and we just really liked playing softball.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned, I think yesterday, we really did have a community.
Yes.
Yeah.
By herself.
Yeah.
And we always walked to school in groups. We knew what time certain people were coming up. Oh, here comes someone. So we get out there and walk together. We just walk and laugh and talk all the way to school.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say there was no violence, but there was a lot of fights at Westwood too.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of fights with children there, and they would pick on the smaller children. But once they had their little fight down at Oakwood, we all flew around. And Miss Biggs, Miss Ferguson come out there, and those fights didn't last long because those kids really got disciplined at the school. And it was.
They had
It was-
permission from the parents anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But they did
Yeah,
it.
but it was over the merry-go-round when the fight started.
Nobody wanted to wait for their
Nobody
turn.
wanted to wait.
Nobody wanted to wait, and the big kids would come take the small kids off.
Yeah.
As they do today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions? Wes?
What was the story of your parents' journey? Were they from Albion, or were your grandparents from the South? Or?
My dad is a World War II veteran. His father was here, and when he got out of the service, excuse me, his father, they couldn't find reputable work, and at that time, Harvard Industry, Alabama Iron Company was bringing black men from the South to work. Well, my grandfather had my father to come up here out of the service. We stayed down until he got up here and got a place for us to stay.
We had a
He lived with Tom Wimley's family with a room there. And when they got the trailer park together, my dad moved into the trailer park and came and had us come up to Michigan. And we came up on the train. And some people get lost on the train because they're so friendly with everybody that they just walked away with other folks. And my uncle traveled up here with my mom and Joe and myself. Those are three children that was on, And like I said, I came here when I was 5 years old. Well, not quite. I would have been like 4.5 because I would have been 5 that year. And I started right into school. But I remember coming back at that time up here, and I was a little girl, and that snow, like it covered me up. I could not. It was just that tall, just that high.
Yeah, that's why we're here. Our grandfather came first and sent for our dad. And we had a restaurant. My mom worked in a restaurant. They owned it in Atlanta. And that's, so we came up then.
She owned her own home too at that time.
Yeah.
And she sold her home. And we came up to Michigan, and we've been here ever since. I have no desire to move back to Atlanta.
Do you know when your grandfather came?
No, I really don't.
Because we came in 47.
We came in 46.
I don't know when he came.
But he'd been here for a while.
Yes.
And I know he was not in the army. He didn't serve in the services.
His name was Alonzo Howell.
He was a big Mason. I remember that.
He lived down on Gadsden Court.
Oh, are you guys related to Loretta Howell?
Yes,
That's my first
that's
cousin.
my first
I used
cousin.
to think she's the most beautiful thing
Well,
on
she
earth.
thinks so too.
Because was she from New Jersey or somewhere?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, when she came in town,
Mhm.
oh,
And
that
she
summer
would-
was bright.
She wanted to come every summer
Yeah.
to spend it with us, but her dad didn't think that she should be out here with us.
In the boonies.
Well, we were in the trailer park when she first came to
Mhm.
visit us.
You referred to the trailer park. Are you speaking of the trailers that were next to the Malibu?
Yes,
They were houses. They didn't look like regular trailers. And I
And-
wish I could find a picture of
That trailer park, I remember we had a wash house at the trailer park. And there was a big building in the middle. And that's where people went in and did their laundry. And that's where they went in and took their baths.
Yeah,
Because there was a bathtub there. Because, you know, somebody moved, so everybody didn't come in there only, but there was a bathtub in there. And it was bathroom. So, needless to say, there was no really, per se, running water in those trailers.
in the sidewalks.
And you had chambers. And they'd take those chambers down to the bathroom
you know,
and empty.
Slop jar.
Yeah, slop jar.
night glass.
That is something, you know. I remember in the trailer park, that was a village.
Yeah, everybody.
Those people took care of us.
It was everybody lived there. All nationalities was in there.
Yeah,
Well, the Russians and the
yeah.
was on Austin Avenue.
Right.
Right.
Because you were right across from the church.
Right. Right.
Yes,
Yes.
it was, yeah.
That little bathroom that they just tore down and redid, that was part of the trailer park.
Okay.
That was the last part of it, and they tore it down and put this little brick one up there. But all of that was hooked to the bathroom, the bathhouse, what everybody did, the washing, the bathing, and the,
And right outside the bathhouse, where they had the trash barrels and lots of glass and stuff on there. And one day, somebody was pulling me in the wagon, I think it was my brother, and we were just going fast, and that wagon hit some glass or debris right by that trash area, flipped me over, and I got the scars today where I cut my leg really bad, and my parents did not take me to the hospital. My mom, doctor on my leg, and I'll never forget that. She had some soot and kerosene, cleaned out with that turpentine, wrapped my leg up.
Good as new.
I still
Oh,
got it.
kick it now.
They did those home remedies.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, your colds, whatever you had, they took care of it.
And after we come to Michigan, I never, ever remember my mother working outside the home.
No, our dad didn't want her to work. He wanted to stay there and raise us because it was 5 girls and 2 boys. And that's one reason he was very
That's a
protective.
job. That's
Yes,
a
it
job.
is.
Yeah.
She cooked, we cleaned, we washed, we did everything. She did.
Yeah.
But you know,
5 girls.
that was fairly common. Because when Floyd was here yesterday, you know, his mother never worked outside, but she worked.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well, that was a job.
She was at church too.
yeah, but there was a clear division of labor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like, I mean, men were expected to get up and go to the factory,
Right.
and women were managed the house
Yeah.
Right.
and all the
Okay.
kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because one thing with the discipline at that age, my dad always worked the second shift at Harvard Industry.
Mhm.
And he came home for dinner at 7:30 every night. we'd be out there playing and somebody said, hey, it's 7:25. If you was at home to eat at that table, ain't when you said, you gonna be there. Everybody ate at the table at the same time. You didn't come in after a while, I don't want that, I ain't eating that. But we hated our meals because we had to eat 4-course healthy meals.
Balance.
My mother had meat, potatoes, vegetables, and a dessert and something to drink. Well, we want peanut butter and jelly, bologna, and hot dog. We didn't get that kind of food. And we thought we were being mistreated because we had to eat greens and beans,
corn and chicken,
and roast beef and ham and all these desserts. We had to do that, and we just felt like we were being mistreated.
We did. We wanted a hot dog.
Yeah.
We could just waited for Saturday to come, so they could go to the grocery store. They let one of us go with them, and we would pick whoever got the Cracker Jacks. That was our treat. And my mother would buy those marshmallow peanut
Oh,
candy
yeah.
and all that,
Yeah.
and the almond candy. Those were her favorites. So that had to be
Chocolate
ours.
cherries.
Yeah.
And that's what we would just get so excited to get them Cracker Jacks because it was a prize.
Yeah, yeah.
Because whatever you got, you was appreciative about
Yeah.
it.
And you were glad to get that.
Yeah.
Well, quickly, I want to say this too. Back in the day when they had the Albion Drive-In, my dad would take us out for a ride on a Sunday afternoon, ride around the country, view whatever. All 7 of us packed in this car. Now, with no car seats.
Go to the movie.
And we would go to the movies, but we could not go in the concession stand. My mom made hot dogs. She did pop the big old brown paper bag of popcorn. She had our Kool-Aid, and we'd get out our blanket. We sat out there and watch the drive-in, and we go back and tell the other kids what the movie was all about. That's what we did. But if we were extra good children, we got that 10 cents to go to the Albion Theater on a Sunday afternoon. But you had to go to church.
Oh, yeah.
You had to go to church, and
yeah.
and you got that nickel, and you better put that nickel in church.
You gotta put it in there.
And then back then, a nickel was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we got 7 of them getting nickels, That's up. That's up. But then he would give us the dime, so we could walk to the movies after church was over, and we had to be home before dark.
Oh yeah.
And we had to stay together.
At dinner time, we all as she said, we had to eat together. And so, it's always only 4 chairs to a table, and it's 7 kids and 2 adults. So our father went and had benches made,
He sure did.
so we could all sit down together. So he sat at the head, but our mother didn't. She would sit there was a couch right at the door going into the kitchen. That's where she would sit and wait and eating her food while all the children sit around while daddy's eating and talking with us. And whoever needed whatever, she'd get up, go in there and give us whatever extra we wanted.
Yeah.
And that's what she did.
And you never talked about what you didn't want to eat.
And
You're going to eat a mouthful of it regardless. And I hate to even think about scrambled eggs and brains.
I tasted them because whatever my dad ate, I wanted to try it.
We
Today,
had to taste it.
Not now. Don't eat that stuff.
And when she said they go to the grocery store and come back with oranges, that wasn't a happy treat. Or lemons, that wasn't a happy treat. Because somebody had been sneezing or coughing. That meant castor oil.
Everybody.
Everybody. Not just one that was coughing, everybody.
And the sad thing about that, whoever was sick got the castor oil first. But we all lined up, and they just passed the germ on down because we used the same spoon.
And you got a half an orange after that. Not a whole one, one bathroom and a half.
And you know that was something.
Oh, yeah.
You still had a slop jar.
No.
When you walked to the movies, was that to the bone?
Albion.
We went to the Albion Theater.
That's the one where the hardware is
In the
now.
hardware store.
And we had good movies. I remember Tarzan, Roy Rogers, Lone Ranger. But later on in life, as the years passed, we were allowed to go to the bone upstairs in the balcony.
I think
14 cents.
I think that was the money was one thing. It was more.
14 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more to go to a bone than it was the Albion.
Yeah.
And what do you, was the Albion Theater the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
Do you remember, did you have to sit on a certain part?
Yeah, on the left side. We sit on the left side.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the left
On the
side.
left side.
Right.
now, do you recall the little old lady coming to check with the flashlight?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do.
Make sure you went over on the wrong side of
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah. I
You
told
couldn't sit in the middle, you had to sit on the left side.
Yeah.
And we would all be there and, we had good fun. But you know what? We enjoyed sitting up in the balcony because those poor white kids that got to sit downstairs caught every piece of candy paper, popcorn, everything, because we could go over the balcony.
Yeah. And they were the best seats.
They were the best seats in the house.
Because now, when I'm going there, I always sit upstairs. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
I would say this too. I do remember traveling every summer to Georgia. As soon as school got out, my parents would take us down to Georgia and leave us with our grandparents until September, Labor Day. They'd come back and get us and bring us back to Michigan. That was our vacation. And I remember on that trip, they packed everything in the car for us because we did not stop, and not just for gas. And if you had to use the bathroom, mind you, there was a little pot in the car, and you use it. Because when we stopped, there was the sign, colored white, to the back. We did not get out of the car. We stayed in the car, all 7 of us in this little car, on car seats.
No, we had others went with
It
us.
was
and that's what
and I remember children being in the back window, laying up in the back window. I remember kids sitting on the floor and then left. That's what I remember.
Now, I do remember when we would travel, Mama had a box, lunch she fixed. And we did stop at when Daddy get gas, he'd tell everybody to get out and use the bathroom because we're not going to stop anymore until you get gas. And you say, well, I don't have to go. He said, well, go and try. So you had the color and you had the white. And Beverly and I was in one, and I remember just like these porta potties now, but it was a double. I'm like, oh Lord, I said, stink in here. So we be in there holding our nose and standing up.
was the outside thing.
Outside.
And the white was inside. They had toilets.
Yeah, we
We was out there and you looked down and you saw, oh my God, all of them, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just an outhouse.
But it was like going on a picnic. That was the fun of traveling.
Oh, yeah.
And you seeing things, we
yeah.
have always traveled south, as she said, and stayed with our aunts and uncles. And our family was so close, my father's people and our mother's people. There was just one. So whatever they had it together.
We didn't know
So
that
I
division.
never knew that until my parents divorced. And these was mamas and daddies. I'm like, well, what's going to happen? Now I'm an adult. They're having those issues, but they still came together.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. But we never really had any problems when we would go south with racial because, we was around white people. Well, part of our heritage is that anyway. And it's not that far down the line.
Yeah.
Our grandfather, of course,
Yeah.
and our grandmother, both sides. But we would go in the stores, they knew you're Essie and Sam's grandkids.
Yeah.
Our grandparents were well known
Yeah.
and well respected.
Yeah.
So everywhere we went, and our aunt was a teacher. We had one was well recognized, my mother's cousin. I just ushered you.
What?
She said our time was up.
Well, I don't see that yet. But I'll check.
She looked in the window a little.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
So.
Well,
This was great.
it's fantastic.
We know it wasn't all about.
That's okay.
Well, that's
It's-
all we do about West Ward.
We got all of that.
Yeah.
Plus.
Well, we both of you then just stayed on in Albion and raised your families here,
Yes.
Right, my
And-
children now are in Georgia.
They
Are they-
relocated where we came from.
And
Yeah.
they don't want to come back.